Inspired by our friends who just completed the first ever Momo to Toto, meaning starting at the Momentum climbing gym that's south of downtown Seattle, biking to Leavenworth, and climbing the world's best V4, Toto, I came up with a variation of the journey to Leavenworth, which had a little less biking, a little more climbing, and no cars. The Sea to Space. We would bike from Seattle to Leavenworth and climb the classic 6-pitch 5.9 outer space, which is on the Snow Creek wall. I saddled up at home and took the light rail to Westlake to meet up with Matt and Helene. Matt actually lives in Leavenworth, so he took the Amtrak bus to Seattle the day before. Apparently the lady he sat next to shat her pants around Everett, and he got to sit next to her for the next 45 minutes into Seattle. An auspicious start to our trip. Speaking of an auspicious start, Laura told us that if we were going to climb outer space, that we'd have to start at the Space Needle, and she was absolutely right. Okay, we actually took a couple of buses to get out of Seattle and started our biking journey in North Bend. This first bus was to Issaquah. There are only 3 bike slots on each bus, so we were pretty relieved to get all 3. We felt bad for this guy, but was glad that the driver let him on anyway. We had a bit of time to wait at the Issaquah Transit Center. Good thing there's this sick skate park right next to it so we could test out our rigs. Helene packed us a comprehensive bike repair kit and insisted that each of us bring at least a spare tube. We're glad Matt saw that message in the group chat. We got our rigs to North Bend and immediately stopped at Scott's Dairy Freeze.
All roads that Becca are on lead to Scott's Dairy Freeze.
Oh, thank you. Matt's somewhere over there. The ride from North Bend is on the incredibly pleasant Palouse to Cascades Trail, which is a gravel trail that goes for many miles. Even though Matt added some emergency food to his kit, it wasn't long before we pulled over to pick some fresh salmon berries. The most mediocre tasting and yet plentiful Washington berry. Delicious. The boy and his fruit. We soon passed Deception Crags. We also got to have the victorious feeling of traveling faster by bike than the poor cars we spotted on the highway. We biked by a historic snowshed and then entered the Snoqualmie Tunnel, which is over 2 miles long, used to be for trains but was converted to a rail trail after the Milwaukee Road went bankrupt. The last train went through it in 1980. At one point I thought we were getting close to the end of the tunnel, but it turned out it was actually just someone biking the other direction. Whoa. At some point we were biking on the rail trail, going past the new rail as a freight train was rolling past. When we passed this sad, soggy pig, I started to wonder if our rock climbing was going to be dry this weekend. Only time would tell. Really stunning. After about 53 miles of biking, we reached South Clay Ellum. Yeah! Look at this train. We grabbed some supplies at Safeway, and I only have this tiny clip of us hiding our bikes in the bushes. We have happy faces here, but little did we know that we still had 15 to 20 more miles to go to get to Matt's family cabin, which included a wicked climb to get on top of this big hill. Day 1 in total was about 75 miles on the bike. We slammed some mac and cheese, went to bed, and unfortunately the next morning it actually looked even wetter. We descended the big gravel hill, and Matt and I realized that we'd lost Helene.
The gravel road has taken its first victim. Oh no!
How'd you follow the bushes?
How are your appendages?
Where's your fall? Right at the top of the hill, immediately.
Crap.
The gravel. Gotcha.
Unfortunately, on day 2, there was a decent amount of riding on the side of Highway 97. Then we made it to the turnoff for Old Blewett Pass Road, where we didn't have to be near cars anymore, and it was lovely. The whole time we only saw 2 motorcyclists and otherwise were alone.
I got this. Look at that scree. Is that chocolate?
My vote would be probably poop.
Nope.
Then we got to do this super long downhill on the other side. Cruising. We did rejoin the highway after that, but it was still basically all downhill into Leavenworth. I don't know if you noticed, but Matt did the whole ride in Crocs. By the way, this was not an unassisted journey. We sent our climbing gear ahead with Matt's dad, who was heading to Leavenworth earlier in the week. When we got to Leavenworth, we picked up our gear and did a little practice, since Matt had never done any trad leading or anchor building before, and we were going to need it for outer space. We topped out Icicle Buttress via the Cocaine Crack and had the feeling it might clear up for tomorrow's climb. It was actually a stunning day. It was 4 miles to the Snow Lake trailhead. We stashed our bikes behind some rocks and headed out at about 7:30 a.m.
Many babies.
Mini. Sick. Our first glimpse of the objective. This is normally a super busy climb, as a beautiful 6-pitch route in Washington, which doesn't get harder than 5'9". We think that since there had been rain in the forecast until the day before, that kept some of the crowds away. We didn't have to wait in line, and Helene took the lead for the first pitch of the more classic Remorse start to outer space. Then Matt led pitch 2, which goes either onto the slab or into this awkward-sized chimney. She emerges.
Hello?
She emerges from the crack like a kraken.
Good job.
Never take you off the lid.
Unfortunately, this is where we joined up with another group who had started before us on the original start to outer space, and the 2 routes converge on the crux, starting at pitch 3. Matt started climbing a bit behind the follower, and we noticed this guy had like a homemade 4-foot-long PVC pipe periscope with a 360-degree camera mounted to the top that had been zipped into his backpack and was kind of dangling all over the place.
The periscope just fell. It fell over there, like past us, and we're not sure if the guy knows yet, but we're really glad it missed Matt.
Dropping your camera periscope is when you go from looking ridiculous to actually being a danger to those around you. They easily would have hit someone if this had been a day of normal traffic on the route. Not great. We hung out by this tree as those folks climbed pitch 4, and then they generously hung out on the library ledge to let us pass them, and I led the final 2 pitches.
Do y'all have big summer climbing plans? Squamish.
On these last 2 pitches, we finally got to do some continuous space jamming. The crux of the last pitch is right off the ledge, which is relevant to the fact that a 60-meter rope barely reaches the top, or barely does not reach the top. We needed to do a little simul climbing, and I'm really glad that Matt didn't yank me down the slab.
It's hard to imagine that she just shit her pants.
We hiked back down to the bottom of the wall and were offended to discover that someone had put the PVC construction into Helene's backpack. Sans camera, it had sheared off somewhere.
Alright.
You don't need to pack out that garbage.
As we hiked out, we realized we were very close to finishing the route in the same time as Galen had, so we started jogging to make sure we'd beat him. This gave us a bike-to-bike time of about 9 hours and 45 minutes. Then we dunked in the river.
Lick it!
The ride back into town was a pleasant downhill, and then we ate a bunch of beans. Great success. There's only one Amtrak train from Leavenworth to Seattle per day, so we took our bikes on board the Empire Builder and journeyed back home. The train goes right by the Index Town walls.
And now it's favored by rock climbers that like to test their skill against this steep precipice.
Then to Everett and down the coast along the Puget Sound.
United States, 1,600 men and women.
When we could see the Space Needle from the train, we knew that the Sea to Space had come full circle. The end.